Okay, I'm still thinking about meat, and this time I'm thinking about meat in relation to art. And really this is a kind of a probe really, because I'm trying to figure out, well, what people think, and I'm trying to use it as a thought experiment myself about meat and art. Because it's funny, those two topics, meat and art, seem to be the ones that push a lot of people's buttons, which is fascinating really. But specifically about the use of meat, or the use of animals, particularly the killing of animals in artworks. I'll just put a few examples past you, and you may be able to think of others, and see where that goes really. I suppose examples that spring to mind, well, first off example is a really simple one for me, because it's somebody I work with. You know, I work in a university in the art, well, the arts within the university, and this guy I work with is he does performance artwork, and part of his performance artwork is the wearing of a suit that's made out of meat. Kind of predates Lady Gaga's meat dress by several years. I don't really know what I've never actually seen him do anything. I've seen the documentation, but I don't really know what he does. But he wears a suit made out of meat as part of the performance art stuff. So that's one example. More famous examples I can find web links to, and I will when I get back. Yeah, Hermann Nietzsche is a good example. Hermann Nietzsche is one of the what used to be called the Viennese Actionists, which is a kind of art movement that came out of Vienna, late 60s, early 70s. There's a fantastic museum actually in Vienna that I went to visit a few years ago. On the main squares, it's this big grey monolithic modernist building in the midst of all this beautiful Baroque architecture. And you go downstairs in this building, and it's all like heavy industrial chic in there. You know, lots of freight elevators, and it's all steel, grey steel. So you go down this into the basement, and it's like going into hell. It's fantastic. It's just like Joseph Fritzl's cellar on an industrial scale, because that's where all the Viennese Actionist stuff is. And the Viennese Actionists were a group of artists, say working in that time period, largely in Vienna, who were interested in, you know, really outrageous and extreme art events and actions. You know, so there's documentations of Rudolf Schwarzkogler down there, who was an artist who basically produced photographs, but they were photographs of things he'd done to himself, either real or staged. And there's one quite famous set of photographs where it looks like he's chopped his own penis off. And you know, the rumour is that he really did, but it's not quite confirmed. But lots and lots of bloodstained bandage stuff, and a lot of the work that's in there is of that order. You know, really extreme, difficult to look at work. And Hermann Nietzsche was doing that work, but he wasn't working with his own body specifically. He was working with animals and actors, or the performers, in what he called the Orgies Mysteries Theatre, Orgies Mysteries. Basically trying to recreate or reclaim what he felt was lost from society, which is this contact with the visceral and contact with the body, and contact with sex and blood and death, and the foregrounding of that in kind of Dionysian rituals which he'd stage. And these rituals typically involved, you know, lots of nakedness, lots of screaming. They went on for hours. Lots of sex, you know, there'd be sex taking place within it, and lots of slaughter, lots of animals, lots of blood. So you get animals cut open, you get ducks killed and swans killed, and quite some famous documentation of calves, you know, baby cows being crucified, strapped to crosses, and then their guts slit open, and all the gizzards just kind of flop out, and all the blood just runs out, usually onto the bodies of one or two naked people lying underneath. And so they'll roll around in the blood and the guts, you know, and cover themselves in this really kind of highly sexual, highly erotic way. Difficult to look at, you know, but interesting. We were supposed to do a piece at the Albert Hall actually in London a few years ago, but when it got to the bit of the show where when a swan was supposed to be decapitated, the show was stopped. Heathcote Williams, who is a poet, jumped up on the stage and stopped the show, which I thought was interesting. So that's Hermann Nietzsche and his use of animals in art. There's no point saying it's not art, because it's in all the history books, you know, everybody, it's taught in universities, it's one part of the canon. We can like it, dislike it, we can't deny its existence. Okay, third example after my mate. Actually I did think on, who is it going to be? Oh yeah, a Chunky Mark McGowan on YouTube. I don't know if you've watched my videos, Mark. I watched some of yours and favoured some of those and like some of them. But Mark McGowan, if those of you who are not Mark are watching this, again I'll leave a link to his channel. He did a piece a few years ago where he either really, or did he really do this, Mark? I don't know. Either really or artificially ate a corgi dog outside Buckingham Palace. And I think, Mark, I think you're vegetarian, which makes it doubly interesting for me. Okay, so I can't think of any more examples actually, but there's loads. You know, there's Meat Joy, the What's It piece, there's Damien Hirst's use of sliced cows and sheep and sharks. You know, there's lots and lots of that stuff going on. But I think those examples will do for now. But some interesting responses. I mean, the things that I've heard, but these are just, you know, I haven't been selective or careful about getting responses and picking up conversations on this. You know, some people say it's okay to do it. In fact, I've heard vegetarians, or people who argue for vegetarianism and argue for animal rights, say it's okay because this is art and art has a higher purpose. I've heard that argument. I've heard the contrary to that even by the most ravenous omnivores, the most ravenous meat eaters, saying, yeah, well, meat's okay to eat, but it's not okay to use in art. It's a waste, some people say that, or it's disrespectful to animals, people say that. Even if you eat them, it's still disrespectful to use them for art purposes. I've heard that, and I've heard people say, you know, kind of bring economics into it and say it's disrespectful to use it because the artist's basically using it as a means of making an income. Not a very strong argument, but I've heard that too. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, if you've got any thoughts on that, I'd be interested to hear them. Is it okay to use meat in art in the way I've described? If not, why not? Yeah, I wouldn't want this to be a discussion about whether art's crap or not. Yeah, most art is crap. Yeah, 95% of everything is crap. Let's just establish that from the beginning. Nor do I want to have this conversation where it says it's not art. Let's just, if you want to say it's not art, say it somewhere else. We have to accept the fact that it is for this exercise. But the next question is it okay? What are the complications around that? Meat art, meat joy.